Well, hello, everybody. My name is Jesse. I'm here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and I know we've got a big new audience today. So if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world through over 40 live, free, monthly interactive broadcasts featuring the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. And you're catching us on a really exciting day today because today we start a new epic series. Thanks to the amazing work of Neha Acharya Patel, who's joined us several times in broadcast, we are partnering with the amazing folks at Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. So for 50 years, since 1974, which for you kids is like the Stone Age, they have been providing the most incredible opportunities for promising young ocean advocates to give them a chance to work with some of the best ocean organizations in the world to become better scientists and storytellers on behalf of the sea. So it's such a huge privilege to get to feature some of their alumni over the next few weeks. I really encourage you to check out our entire broadcast series at the link below. And we want to say a big special thank you, not just to them, but to the amazing folks at the Story Collider and Rolex's Perpetual Planet Initiative for allowing us to do this awesome series. So big thank you to everyone involved. I really encourage you to check out their website too to see some more of the work that they do. And we'll be featuring that in all our StreamYard and YouTube links in just a second. Now, we couldn't be getting underway with a better first speaker than Shaun Wolfe. He's joining us from Hawaii, where we all wish we were right now, because it's one of the best places in the world. And he's going to share his work getting to share stories of the underwater world. His work has been featured by Netflix, by BBC, by National Geographic, by all the iconic names of nature filmmaking. His photography, his videography has been featured by all of them. He's got there's a Netflix special series that was released today featuring some of his work that we'll make sure you have a link to at the end of the broadcast too. And today I'm so excited to bring him in to share some of the stories that he's had in a lifetime of epic adventure. So without further ado, having made his screen share work in the last few seconds here, Shaun, welcome to the broadcast. So nice to meet you, man.
Oh, thanks, Jesse. And nice to see everyone else here too. Thank you.
I was saying to you before we got underway, we've got like California to like Ontario. I think we've got New Brunswick, Michigan. We've got all over the place today. So it's a really fantastic audience. And if you want to dive us in literally and figuratively to kick off our OS series, by all means, bring up our presentation.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see. I'm going to present. Share screen.
Perfect. You are good to go, man. Let's do this thing.
Okay, awesome. All right. Let me get my cursor over here too. Cool. Okay. Great. I think. Oh.
It wants to work. I find smacking the computer sometimes really satisfying for me personally.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming. As you can see from this screen, my name is Shaun Wolfe. Some might say I'm a dashing young prince or a legend in his own mind, but alas, I'm merely a cinematographer and photographer who wants to share with you a little bit about what I do. I'm 33 years old. I work as a freelance cinematographer and photographer. I grew up in California, which is where I'm filming here in this photo. And now I live in Hawaii. This was also in California, coincidentally, for all the California folks tuned in. These are some places where my work has gone and where you can find some of the stuff that I do. But, you know, I definitely didn't start this way. I will start by talking just a little bit about what I do. So as I said, I'm a cinematographer and photographer. And my whole goal is to use my creativity to make a difference in the world, to help the environment and people alike. And I use film or video, motion picture film, and photography to do this. Not only is it the most fun way for me to do it, but I got into the conservation field by watching a very inspiring documentary in a very inspiring marine science class with a very inspiring professor, which is a lot of inspiration, right? So that's all to say that films have impacted my life in a major way, and I hope to give other people that same gift. So to start, I'll show a few pieces of work. Actually, I'll start with this one. I'll go back to it. I took this in Death Valley, and coincidentally, I worked really hard the night before this image to get a really good shot of the sand dunes. So I like hiked up sand dunes for maybe like an hour, and just getting pelted by sand. It was super, super windy, and it was honestly kind of miserable, and I wasn't really getting the shot that I wanted. And I went to bed feeling very defeated, woke up feeling even more defeated. I slept in my car. And then, yeah, in the morning, I woke up with no plans of shooting more photos, but got out of the car and then from the parking lot saw this shot and took it. So that was not how I thought that was going to happen. And then this is the firefall in Yosemite. And now I want to show you a little bit of video work that I've done. Double screening here.
Where is this, Shaun? This is incredible.
This is all in California too. Yeah. Cool.
We aren't
And
getting
yeah.
audio from this, just so you know. Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. All right. Sweet. So that's just a little sampler of video work for me too. Onwards. Cool. So yeah, so that's some of the stuff that I've done more recently. But now I'll talk about, how I started to do this work in the first place. So yeah, you can see these photos from New Zealand in 2013, maybe not quite as high quality as some of the other stuff that I've shown. Yeah, so the way that sorry if I keep pausing, I'm making sure that my screen's sharing. I have a lot of windows up, even though you can't see them. But yeah, the way I started getting into photography was just that I love to travel. I love new places and cultures and landscapes and food and people and everything that comes along with travel. And so I really wanted to be able to bring these experiences back home to people that didn't go with me. So from the ages of 18 to 26, there we go, just saved all my money to travel, and I would take personal pictures while I was traveling. And photography wasn't my focus. I didn't put much time into it. I certainly wasn't making money doing it. It was just a hobby for me to share my trips with family and friends. Eventually, I went to graduate school for marine science and science communication and media, where between my first and second year, I got my first big break, which was with our World Underwater Scholarship Society. I got the National Park Service internship in 2017. And this internship sent me all over the world to places I could never afford to go with camera gear I could never afford to buy. I got to document both pristine and damaged marine environments and the science that was being done in both. And after this internship, I really went full bore into the life of a photographer and filmmaker. It gave me the belief that I could do it. And so I did. And I made a lot of films in my second year of grad school, got fellowships, internships, and started putting all of my time and energy into it. And I slowly started getting opportunities as I was graduating, like this one in Costa Rica. And don't worry, no milk was wasted in getting this photo. So yeah, I've been working ever since grad school as a freelance cinematographer and photographer. It's a very alternative lifestyle with really long and unpredictable hours, as well as finances. And it's also taken me all over the world. Both things are true. In the end, I really couldn't be doing anything else, as this is the best way I feel like I can make an impact on the issues that I care about. So yeah, what are some of the things that I've done? Well, these are 4 different films or programs that I've worked on. I really shoot a lot of wildlife television programs, some science and conservation and social justice documentaries, a little bit of commercial work and branded content, and some scripted films. And with that, I hope to bring you all what I hope is what everyone wants to see, which are some stories from the field. So,
So,
did you get audio from that, by the way?
no, we didn't. I was just going to say, I'm so sorry that the audio just decided not to work, but where are we in that? It's a riot.
So, yeah, you also can't hear me panicking a little bit. Um, but yeah, this is in Tasmania. And this is all to say that if you are going to work in the field like I do, you have to be willing to put yourself in some tight spots. I don't know if it's clear here, but I'm hanging over a cliff. And, I would say it was worth it. This is the photo that I got from putting myself in that position. You also have to be willing to put your gear in harm's way a little bit, and also learn that gaff tape can solve many of life's problems. Also, you have to be willing to potentially wade through thigh-deep water where alligators swim and there's lots of snakes and bears and panthers roam and there's tons of mosquitoes, which is why you can see I'm wearing that mosquito net on the right-hand side here. This experience happened while I was documenting my friend Malia put in camera traps for what's now called Wild Path and used to be called Path of the Panther in the Florida Everglades. And you have to be willing to haul lots of equipment on very long flights across the world. So with that, I'm going to pivot to some of the most serious stories from the field. Here I am between dives, shooting for Netflix's Our Universe. We use this underwater scooter that I'm using here to really get smooth shots of penguins swimming in the kelp, but I used it to do donuts on the surface, which was very fun. As Jesse said, a program that just came out is called Our Living World. It's out on Netflix starting this morning. I worked most of 2021 and 2022 on this program. And the biggest shoot I did for this took place in Alabama. I was there for about a month, and I worked with a team to develop this rig that you see on screen here. In the pool, we developed this rig to get shots that are half in the water, half out. However, it would be challenging even just getting in the water. Out of our 21 days to get on the boat, we got on the boat for a day and a half due to poor weather conditions, which is a theme you'll see throughout my work, that things don't often go according to plan and you just have to make do. So because we couldn't get on the boat, for most of that time, Netflix asked us to film a backup story in case we couldn't get on the boat at all. So part of what we had to do at first, because it was raining, was film the rain. However, it was an extreme challenge to film the rain because it was coming down so hard and it was so windy that keeping the lens dry was really challenging. And you won't be able to hear me since the audio is not working. But I look at the lens right there after setting up that shot and I just go, Jesus. So we were trying so hard to keep the lens dry, and even shooting from deep within our minivan, which you can see here on the left, we couldn't keep the lens dry, which you can see on the right, all those little tiny water droplets covering the lens. And when the lens is like that, you really can't get a clean shot. So then the wind came, and Netflix asked us to film the wind. However, getting the camera stable when you're shooting on a really long lens like this in really high winds is super difficult. So here you can see me using a couch cushion that I definitely didn't steal from our Airbnb to block the wind from hitting my camera, which worked. And don't worry, I later returned the cushion. Then Netflix asked us to film the heat, but it was, at this time, it was quite windy. And we did have some really, really hot days in Alabama, but when it was windy, it was not hot. So to create the hot look, I also took a baking sheet from our Airbnb, spray painted it black left it in the car on the dashboard with the windows rolled up to get it hot, then put a little bit of rubbing alcohol and propped it on a couple rolls of paper towels, very professional tools, in front of the camera lens to get heat rising off of the baking sheet, which you couldn't see the baking sheet. And it kind of, to give you an idea of what it looks like, it's like when you're driving on a highway on a really hot day and you can see heat rising from the road. So finally, we got to get in the water to film what we were there to film all along, which was jellies or jellyfish. And excuse the poor quality of this photo. It's very hard to get a good photo of yourself in the field when you are the one with the fancy camera. But anyway, the visibility is so bad at the beaches in Alabama that we had to go 80 miles offshore to film these jellies in water that was thousands of feet deep. So this photo, I'm in very, very deep water. I'm close to the surface, but the bottom of the ocean is thousands of feet below me. And finding them was also hard. It took most of the day for us to find them sometimes. Once we did find them, it was glorious. And we got some really nice footage, and a few sharks came to say hi as well. And I was hoping to show you guys some of that footage, but Netflix is not allowing me, and they aren't allowing me to show the screenshot that I pulled up. So you will just have to watch it yourself and imagine it for now. And I apologize for those technical difficulties. But yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say about this was, the reason why we had to go so far offshore was, I mean, you can't even see your fingers. If your hand is in the water to here, you can't see your fingers in the water near shore in Alabama. The visibility is really, really poor because they get so much rain and rivers empty into the ocean. All right. I also spent 3 weeks filming topside, or on top of the land or water, for this program in California. I was filming in a burned out forest, filming birds, and this shoot represents the other challenges of being a wildlife cinematographer. We were working 18 to 19 hours a day, waking up at 3 a.m. to haul 70 pounds of gear, a very, very steep terrain, in a burned out forest, breathing ash and getting hammered by mosquitoes. Once we got to our spot, we stayed hidden in a blind or like a camouflage tent to make the birds more comfortable with us. And we would be there for hours on end, hoping to catch a glimpse of the birds. And this was definitely one of the most physically challenging shoots I've ever done. You can see the blind here on the right-hand side. At first, I had the flaps closed, but as the birds got more comfortable with us, I was able to let them down, which made it a lot nicer because it was really hot. On the opposite side of the spectrum, I spent 2 weeks for this series filming a series of time lapses of flowers blooming. I actually filmed these in my bedroom, which is where this video is taking place. Filming these time lapses meant that I stared at flowers for 3 weeks, learning when they bloom, what they look like before they bloom, how long it takes for them to bloom, so I could program my time lapse correctly. And yeah, I'm sorry for the messy room, but I had to live with this setup in my room for several weeks, so everything was kind of a mess. Cool. Another show that I worked on was called Tiny World. It's on Apple TV. I spent 1 month working on Tiny World, basically looking at this screen that you see here. I was watching dwarf cuttlefish eggs 24/7, waiting for them to hatch. And spoiler alert, they never hatched. So eventually we had to settle for creating a newly hatched cuttlefish scene instead. And when you're in a scenario where you have to monitor eggs for a month, you can't do this underwater because we can't be underwater for a month. So we tried to film the hatch in an aquarium setting. But as you can imagine, this hatch could happen at any time. So, if we needed to go to the bathroom or something, we'd press record, sprint to the bathroom, sprint back, and really hope that the hatch didn't happen. So this got riskier and riskier as like time went on. I'm going to try to play a little clip of this that hopefully works. Okay, here we go. So this is what we filmed.
Oh, it's stunning.
that's the gist of it. Yeah, I'm glad that played. So yeah, just getting, essentially those shots and a couple others, it took us a month to give you an idea of how much time goes into these programs. Wildlife is unpredictable. You can't tell people. You can't tell the animals where to be and when to be and what to do. They're not going to listen. So yeah, it takes a really long time. And usually wildlife crews on location are only 2 to 5 person crews. This is in stark contrast to some of the other work I do, which you can see here. This is the crew on a scripted feature film I worked on last year called Molokai Bound, a feature film that will be premiering at the Seattle International Film Festival. Okay. And on Molokai Bound, and continuing the theme of things not going according to plan, we rented out a warehouse to film a car scene. We needed this warehouse to be completely dark to work. And when we got there, we realized that there was a giant door that had like a rolling door in the warehouse, and it was supposed to close. But when we got there, we realized it was jammed open and we weren't going to be able to close it. And remember, we needed a blacked out space, so we couldn't have this door open. So we had to send someone to the hardware store. We lost probably an hour and a half of them picking up a bunch of really dark material for us to black out this door, which you can actually see on this frozen video screen on the left-hand side. That little kind of gray space is the blacked out door. Once we had done that, we filmed this scene of our characters driving. And I say driving in quotation marks because the car was actually parked, but we used lighting tricks to make it look like they were driving on camera. It's very hard to get a lot of camera angles driving, like on an actual road, and especially getting good camera angles. So instead, we filmed it in a warehouse with the car in park, and we used lighting tricks to make it look like the car was driving. And I'm gonna kind of walk you through those lighting tricks. So these white lights in the back here, those are the car behind, what's supposed to be the car behind the car we're filming. This orange light up here is street lights passing overhead. And this red light is the brake lights of the car in front of the car we're filming. And I wish that I could share what this looks like in the final film, but since it's not released yet, I can't. But let me tell you, it's very convincing. I was surprised at how good it looked once we finished it. So also on Molokai Bound, let's see.
It's just too exciting. It needed to play again. I've never seen anything like that, by the way. This is very cool for me.
Yeah. So also on Molokai Bound, we also had extreme windy days of 60 miles an hour plus winds. And here you can see me and Moana Ham, our art director, holding on to a 4-foot by 4-foot black flag for dear life, trying to block wind from the camera. So I did the same thing on another shoot with the wind. Earth Sounds is another series that I worked on, and I filmed what is essentially a self-powered paddleboard that crosses oceans, picking up whale sounds and transmitting that data to scientists here in Hawaii in real time. Fortunately for me, I did not have to swim across the ocean to film this paddleboard because it essentially swims faster than I can. The scientists set it to swim in a big circle around me, but it was a very big circle, and because of the current and swell, it was moving much faster than I could, and its path was very unpredictable. So I was essentially sprinting, swimming underwater for 5 days to try to get a few shots that I'll play for you now.
Really glad to that you're featuring a series talking about Earth sounds particularly. It's something that I think a lot of our students, and certainly when I was a kid, I never really thought about as being really integral to the natural world, but it really, really is. We've gotten a chance to feature some amazing soundscapes and sound projects in our past, so to see the filming of this is very neat.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So here it's like it's moving slow, but it was moving incredibly fast here. I could barely keep up with it.
And a really quick note too, Shaun, we've got about 20, we're at the 25-minute mark. So if you want to share one more story before we dive in with Q&A, that would be fantastic.
I will, yeah. Okay, cool. Good to know. I'm gonna stop on our sound zone. There's a little bit more of that, but we're gonna move on. Yeah, I'll start here. This is my last story, and it's pretty short. This is from a film that I made much earlier in my career called Borderlands for the New Yorker magazine. And as you can see here, the weather was not ideal, or perhaps I'm just a magnet for rain. So producers in the audience, read this as if you want to film rain, hiring me will guarantee you some excellent conditions. Oh, having trouble switching slides after the video plays.
It's spinning like you did in the water.
Exactly, yeah. And all that rain brought a lot of mud on the roads. We were driving next to the border wall. And so on our last day in Texas, our producer wanted us to film a bit of the wall that meant driving through a lot of mud in a car that was not meant to drive in the mud. Getting to the wall, we had no issue driving through the mud, but getting back from the wall and to the airport to make our flight, well, you won't, I think sound's not working, but you can see I'm having a good time here and approaching the mud. And that's me realizing we are stuck in the mud, and you can see the cars not moving. So without cell service, we spent the next hour and a half on our hands and knees, digging in the mud, trying to find long sticks to jam under our tires to give us traction. And despite how it looks in this video, we did end up helping our director and didn't just film her demise in the mud. We started getting really nervous that we were going to miss our flight to San Diego to film the second half of this film. But luckily for us, we got the car unstuck in the nick of time, even with time to spare to go through a drive-through car wash to avoid the extra cleaning fees. You can see how dirty I am there. And I say that it was an excellent team building exercise that we planned all along. But anyway, wrapping up, I just want to say to everyone in the audience that, if you want to do this or you're thinking about this as a career, my closing advice to you is don't let anyone tell you that you can't. Don't get discouraged if the road gets difficult. Great cameras do make things easier, but the camera you have is good enough to start with, even if it's your phone. Shoot the things that interest you. Shoot often. The internet is a really great tool with a lot of free learning resources and people that can help you. And don't be afraid to take risks. And remember that even the greats were beginners at some point. So thank you for your time. Mahalo nui loa, as we say here in Hawaii. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation.
Well, I certainly did, Shaun. And from the reactions I can see in the background, it certainly looks like everyone else did too. So we're going to dive into the nice long Q&A. Our YouTube audience has already been sharing a whole bunch there. So a big thank you to Ms. Kerr's class in particular. Our 4 live classes on camera, we're coming to you one by one in a sec. I'm going to give you a second to percolate with some questions, but Shaun will begin with an obvious one we were inevitably going to get. Do you have a most memorable image you've taken or a place that you visited? What's the best of the best, if you can possibly narrow that down?
Oh, yeah. Well, I shared a couple, I think. In terms of still photography, probably that image in Death Valley is my favorite. So that's that's a really memorable one. I think also the image of the diver in the cave in Hawaii, that was kind of one of my first good images, I think, or like really nice images. And it was probably the coolest dive I've ever done. So that one sticks with me too. But in terms of the video stuff, yeah, if you watch Our Living World, some of the jellyfish stuff is pretty awesome. Yeah. So, and that experience, especially that, we waited so long, we waited 20 days to get those shots of sitting on land, not being able to get on the boat. So yeah.
I've got to say your description of filming heat is one of my faversive things I've ever heard. So thank you very much for that with that pan and everything else. It's magnificent.
How to film heat when there's no heat. Yeah.
We're going to head to Mr. Shadid's class, Deep River, 5 seconds. If you guys want to kick us off, DeWitt Middle School, we're coming to you right after. Hey, guys.
What is your favorite filming experience on a movie that you worked on and your favorite movie that you worked on?
Ooh.
Oh.
No pressure.
Yeah. There's so many. It's so hard to choose from. I mean, I think, yeah, that experience in Alabama was pretty special. I'll say that since I've already talked about that, I'll say I loved working on Molokai Bound. I love being on that crew, and I'll give a shout out to the film that I showed at the very beginning, Rebirth of a Reef. Working with the Band Tuna Research Group in California, I really loved working with them and having their trust, like full trust for creative control over that project. And yeah, that was pretty special too. And my favorite movie that I've ever worked on. Oh, not so. If we're not talking TV shows and we're just talking movies, Rebirth of a Reef and Molokai Bound for me. Yeah, I haven't actually seen the final version of Molokai Bound, but I've seen a near. Yeah, well, hasn't come out yet, but yeah, I've seen a near final version, and I think it's a really special film about it's a Native Hawaiian struggle, and I think it's really special and beautiful. So
very, very cool. We're going to likely get a few variations of that question, Shaun. So if you want to tell different stories as we get versions of that, but kids, that's a great first question. We're going to head to DeWitt Middle School. Miss Shelton, we're coming to you guys next. We have tons of time for Q&A. So DeWitt, welcome in, guys. Hey.
Hello. Has any animals ever chased you?
Yes, great question.
Ooh, chased me. I don't know about. So when I was a kid, I got chased by an eel, actually. And I think I was on a dive a couple weeks ago here in Hawaii where an eel was thinking about biting my finger. But generally, I don't get chased. And when I was filming the jellyfish in Alabama, we did get cruised a couple times by sharks. That's happened to me in the Virgin Islands as well. I've been maybe scoffed at by bison as well, but chase.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect answer. Leave it there. If you think chase you, but scoffed at by bison is a chef's kiss of a description. So I appreciate that very, very much. They're uppity bison. They really think they know it all.
Yeah.
Great question, guys. Miss Sheldon, I'm coming to you. George Webster, coming to you right after. We've got time for a whole second round. Lots of time for questions, guys. So keep them coming. California, welcome in, guys. Hey.
My name is Hudson, and has an animal ever tried to hurt you before?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good question. So, I'll give this this is the one I'm going to take a little more time on. I'm going to give this as a two-part answer. So, while I'm filming, no, an animal hasn't tried to hurt me. But other times in my life, it's been close. So I used to work I worked in an aquarium, and we would collect the animals that we had in the aquarium and then release them after a period of time. And in this instance, you are wrestling animals basically. And yes, I've definitely been pinched by crabs in particular. So yes, in that case, an animal has tried to hurt me, although they thought I was trying to hurt them. So I think that's fair. I have also been stung by different stinging animals like Portuguese man o' wars many times. But yeah, underwater, like on a dive, there are certain places. The really good example of this is actually in the Virgin Islands. Like I said about the sharks, they have invasive fish in the Caribbean called lionfish, and it's good to remove them from the environment. And so a lot of people will spearfish for them. There are a lot of dive instructors that take tourists on dives. They spear a lionfish, which is a good thing, but then they leave the lionfish because they want to attract sharks. So the tourists can see sharks. And what this means for us, other humans that are not spearing the lionfish, is that sharks now associate us divers with food. And so I was on a dive where sharks were circling around me, expecting that I was going to feed them. And yeah, it was, I won't say that I felt like I was in imminent danger, but it was a good time to leave the area.
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah.
When you don't have that tasty lionfish hunk to hand over to the shark, they're kind of confused.
Yeah, for sure.
Great question, guys. All right, George Webster Elementary. Hi, guys. Welcome in Toronto. Take us away.
So I have a question. So what's the most dangerous project you've ever worked on?
Ooh, and this can be landscape. This can be any challenge you want to feature, Shaun.
Yeah, dangerous. So there was a shoot that I almost did that would have been definitely the most dangerous shoot I've done. And it actually is featured in our Living World too. Someone else ended up doing it, but it was filming a hurricane in Florida. So that would have definitely been the most dangerous. But I do think the most dangerous thing that that I've done was also for our Living World. It actually didn't make the final edit, but we were diving on some oil rigs, like 30 to 80 miles off the coast in Alabama. And the current was really, really strong. And so the reason why this is dangerous is, you know, you have your oil rig here and your boat, I'll use one finger for the boat, so it's smaller. Your boat's here. They drop you off the oil rig, you dive in the oil rig, the boat's waiting for you to come back up to the surface. But when the current's really strong, if you're on the oil rig and the current's going this way, it can take you, you know, miles this way quickly while the boat's here waiting for you to come back up. So they might not find you and you're swept out to sea, right? And so that was a pretty
That's sketchy.
dangerous scenario, yeah, I would say. And like, you know, we ended up getting some really good shots, but you can't swim against current that fast. So what we were doing is literally crawling, you know, with our hands on the oil rig to get into position, and then, you know, floating with the current past the oil rig to get the shots we needed, and then crawling back.
Person to mention current being a really dangerous thing, and it's something a lot of. I'm basically a landlubber most of my life. I only recently got out into sea for the first time in my life, and you know, when you work and live on the sea, currents are really big deal. It's not something you think about necessarily in Ontario, like our class today. But I'm really glad you highlighted that for the danger.
Yeah, and you know what? Not only currents, but we actually got recalled from that dive early because there was an approaching lightning storm. So we had to cut that. We had a day, like I said, we had a day and a half on the water. That was a half day because we got cut short from a storm. So that was another danger that we faced too.
Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. Well, we've got time for 4 more questions. So live class, I'm coming to you all again. I'm going to take a quick one from YouTube, so please do stick around. Miss Cork wanted to know, other than patience and creativity, what other kinds of training or skills are required to be good at photography and filmmaking?
I mean, this is such a long answer that I could give. I mean, I think like especially with the wildlife stuff, the technical aspect of it comes in a lot. Like what we do is super technical and super specialized, but I think technical skills are required for any sort of photography, be it motion picture or stills, in terms of lighting, equipment, knowing really how your camera works super well. And you know, something else I'll say that I haven't talked about at all, but is probably the most important skill as a professional in the field is networking, which is a really challenging skill to learn, but learning how to create relationships with people and clients that could hire you. Because if you can't build up those relationships, you won't be able to make any money to support yourself as a photographer and filmmaker. So
it's a beautiful answer. Thank you very much for that. And again, we're going to do a special plug for the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, which really helps make those early networking experiences possible for so many people. So you'll get to see, again, a few other different careers over the course of the series, but I'm really glad you featured that in your answer. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I do want to say really quick too, just on Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, I really can't recommend anyone that's, you know, interested in underwater stuff, just check it out. Like I would not be able to have the career that I have without the internship that I got. And so there's a lot of opportunity there, you know, despite your skill level. So
very, very cool. I'm sure they appreciate that immensely. And again, we appreciate them immensely for making this series possible. So thanks to all the team there. We're going to try a rapid fire round of 3 more questions with our live classes. George Webster, I'll come to you first in case you have to go. And then Mr. Shattuck, and we'll wrap up with Ms. Shelton in a minute.
What is the hardest
part? 836.
Oh, okay. What encouraged you to photograph nature and the earth?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'll make it short and sweet. I watched a documentary in college in my sophomore year called Tapped. It's about the bottled water industry, and it really inspired me and made me feel like there's nothing more important I could do with my life than dedicate it to conservation, and that the best way to influence people on conservation issues is through film and photography, which is exactly how I got influenced to join the movement.
A number of people that we feature in these broadcasts that got their start by watching something online or in a video that inspired them is astonishing. I would say it's honestly like 75% of people, that is their origin story. So
that's why I do it. Yeah.
That's why you kids, like, just by watching this, learning from people like Shaun, it goes such a long way to inspiring future careers. So I'm so glad we got that question. Thanks, guys. All right, Mr. Shattuck and then Ms. Shelton, we're going to wrap up in California in a minute, but come on in Deep River. Hey.
What is the most expensive piece of equipment you broke?
Ooh.
I broke?
Is that what? You broke? Yeah.
Broke or have both? Let's do both. What's the most expensive one you have and broke?
Okay, easily the most expensive piece of equipment I've broke was a DJI Inspire 2 drone, which cost about $10,000. I was flying it in too much wind, clipped the side of a pier, and it sunk in the ocean. Not my most proud moment, but it happens. And I did say before it sunk that this was an incredibly risky shot. I told the director, and that the drone may not come back from this, and sure enough, it didn't. The most expensive piece of equipment I own has changed. It's probably my underwater housing, though. It costs about $20,000.
Wow, there you go. And again, I highlighted in the scholarship that you got the chance to play with tools and things that you would never have had the ability to do otherwise. And so again, if you have those networking opportunities, if you take those early career options, you can end up in a situation where people let you use gear like that, or where you build up a career where you can buy gear like that. So I'm really glad we highlighted that. Thank you for being so candid.
You know what? I'll tell him too, because this is a fun one. The lens that I use to film the bird stuff for Our Living World, that lens is the most expensive piece of gear I've personally used. It costs about $75,000 just the lens. Yeah.
I truly did not know lenses ever got that expensive. So thank you very much for that, for the candor. Benicia, we're going to wrap up with you in Ms. Shelton's class. A big thank you again to all you as an audience. Again, I'm going to message you with all the details of the scholarship of the series when we're done. And of course, this will be on our YouTube channel forever to watch in at your convenience. But let's wrap up. Ms. Shelton, thank you guys so much. And take us away.
Where is your favorite place to take photos?
Ooh.
Oh, man. Also, shout out to all you in California. It's my home state. So really good to see you. My favorite place to take photos. That's a really hard answer to give. I mean, I just love any sort of sweeping landscape. I love underwater. I love like really big geological structures. I think probably my favorite places I've been to take photos, even though maybe I didn't get photos when I was there as much as I would have liked to, would probably be New Zealand, Peru, and just a lot of places in California. Yeah, California has so many different environments, from the redwoods to the desert to the mountains and so forth. But anytime I think just really big landscapes and unique landscapes. And I mean, a special shout out to like foggy, misty mountains in particular. But yeah,
there's a lot of those in California, I know. And
yeah, also good visibility days in kelp forest, underwater. Those are my favorite. Yeah.
Some of the most universally loved places in the world are kelp forests. We get a lot of people talking about them, so that's very special.
I prefer shooting underwater in kelp forests on good visibility days than coral reefs. Actually, it's so nice.
How special. Well, Shaun, thank you for picking some options there for us, and thank you for highlighting the United States too. We've got a lot of Americans and Canadians today, and I think a lot of us, when I grew up, I was always like, Australia, East Africa, the darkest part of Brazil. And, there's so many amazing places right on our doorstep. So wherever you're joining from today, pick up your camera, take a shot, find some places that inspire and excite you. And who knows, you might end up getting an amazing career like Shaun. This has been so much fun, man.
Thanks, Jesse.
you're welcome back anytime. I know some of our classes need to go, so what I'm going to do to wrap up the broadcast is bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. So Mr. Shattuck, Miss Shelton, Miss McGear's class, George Webster, thank you so much, guys, for joining us for the Art World Underwater Scholarship Society program. Have a wonderful day.